Welcome, welcome, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another one. My name is Bukondeleli Mraudzi, Wagwamasenga, Mraudzi Vachinavi, Nichinavdalaboya, Vavirikanda Kato. Welcome to it. Sending greetings to everyone. I know we have a series going on, but this is a bit of a break, but it is aligned to our series. Today we are talking about the Democratic Alliance in their response to the speech that the president of South Africa gave at the BRICS summit. Now he expressed that Russia is such a valuable ally and friend of South Africa. I don't want to get too much into that, but let's hear what the DA's response to that is. And, let's listen in together, see what this is all about. I'm very interested.
When the president of South Africa says, and I quote,
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Let's get into this discussion now. The Democratic Alliance has slammed President Cyril Ramaphosa for calling Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin a valuable ally. This was during the BRICS summit. The second largest party in the current government of national unity says it does not represent its view, describing Russia as an authoritarian regime which has violated international law with its war on Ukraine.
All right, so you're getting the bit of background to the story. You see, I have titled this, ANC, this versus ANC. The center is not holding. They are obviously disagreeing on matters of foreign policy, which is something a lot of us anticipated long ago was going to happen. We know the political stance of everyone on all things, in terms of international relations. So we know the DA absolutely does not like Russia or Vladimir Putin. And the interesting thing is, John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, made the statement that Russia is not South Africa's ally, but is rather the ally of the president. I've never heard anything so ridiculous, I mean, the fact is Russia is an ally to South Africa, and so is China, And I mean, we also have dealings with countries in the West, unfortunately. But that's the reality of it. So I don't know when the DA said, John Steenhuisen said, this position does not represent South Africa, but somehow it represents the president and the ANC. Kanjan. Because the fact is, Russia is an ally of South Africa. America is also considered an ally of South Africa. But the DA would like us to be closer to the West than the East. Right? So, it's so clear to me. And that's why I said to you, the DA represents, Europe and America's interests in this part of the world. It's so clear to me. It is like broad in, it's clear as daylight. But let's listen to what the representative of the DA says to us. about the situation and why they have taken such a stance. Listen to this.
DA International Relations spokesperson is Emma Powell. She joins us this evening for reaction to what the president said in a bilateral meeting with his Russian counterpart. Ms. Powell, good evening to you and thanks for your time. What exactly is the problem for the Democratic Alliance when the president of South Africa says, and I quote, Russia is a valuable ally and a friend of South Africa?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Well, I think that the problem is twofold. Firstly, it seems as if the president may have forgotten that his party no longer enjoys an outright majority in government. And as such, the ANC are no longer at liberty to unilaterally determine South Africa's foreign policy positions without consulting their key partners in the government of national unity. That's problem number one.
Yes, yes, ANC. That's problem number one. Problem number one is you chose so-called partners who are polar opposites. I mean, you hardly agree on anything. Why, Mara? Why? Eh, Mara, why? Anyway, let's listen.
Secondly, is the issue that South Africa, in the previous term, I believe is a way to avoid having to condemn Russia outright, positioned itself as a mediator to the war that is being waged by Russia in Ukraine. And when a country has positioned themselves as a mediator, it really flies in the face of those mediation efforts for our president to be saying to one side of the party that they consider them to be a friend and an ally. It does not speak to non-alignment, it does not speak to neutrality, and it certainly does not bode well for South Africa's credibility as a neutral and impartial mediator.
Yeah.
And I think that those are the two key issues here. I mean, we can unpack some of the
Well, I actually think, our diplomatic stand as a country sometimes puts us in such compromised position. But it's not as easy as one can say it, but I do understand the complexities of, being in that sort of arena. But hey, this thing of ours of just being neutral everywhere, neutral, we're trying to be neutral. Hey, it's getting us child this thing. I think the ANC should think about that because I mean, look, they are navigating very perilous water. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. It's very dangerous waters there. And that's why a lot of the times it's best to be neutral on certain issues. I'm telling you, this issue of being neutral, I think it's even sort of agitating, some of our partners in the global south. But yeah, let's hear what is.
the more intricate issues as well, if you'd like.
Well, let's unpack this particular element from your leader, John Steenhuisen, because he is the one that is quoted in a statement as suggesting that these words from the president could jeopardize South Africa's international relations and trade opportunities at a time when the country is experiencing renewed economic optimism. What exactly is he referring to there?
Well, if you were to look at foreign direct investments into South Africa, these are foreign direct investments that create jobs for South Africans, that put food on the table of ordinary South Africans. Roughly 58% of all foreign direct investment stocks come from the European Union. Now, of course, most European nations are NATO member states. So when South Africa's president goes and shakes Vladimir Putin's hand and says that we consider the Russian state to be a friend and an ally, it certainly flies in the face of shoring up positive sentiment with our European partners who have consistently shown goodwill in terms of investing into South Africa. And let me just
I tried to watch this thing. Nah? I couldn't finish watching this thing. But I mean, you can just hear the kinds of things that are being said. I know. I would rather not. No, foreign direct investment from our European partners, you know, and it creates jobs for South Africans and puts food on the table. You see, this is my problem with the DA. The DA tells half stories. The DA starts history in the middle. These are the people who got us reading the Bible from the middle, to the end of the book. These are the people who said, "I don't focus too much on that other stuff. Just focus on this part." This is how they frame things. There is no historical context to anything. Let me ask a question: how did these so-called benevolent investors, how did they end up being these so-called investors? I mean, let's talk about that. And when you consider everything that I've shared with you in terms of the nature of the relationship between Africa and the West, has not fundamentally changed. It's still about extracting African resources for the benefit of Europe and America. Now, in that context, when you're coming to me as an African person, you're telling me, we need foreign investors to create jobs. You're not selling me on that. That mediocrity, let's hope that, these capitalists will come here and create all these jobs for us. But who's asking questions around sovereignty and self-reliance, self-determination? Where is that question in this mix? No, we need foreign direct investment. There's nothing that ticks me off more than that kind of talk. Absolutely ticks me off. I mean, what are we talking about here? So really, for me, this person is saying nothing for me. They're not talking about anything that is of interest to us as Africans in terms of our true aspirations. Our true aspirations are not so that, these European billionaires must come here and open their companies, and employ us and decide what they're going to pay us and what they think we deserve. And then we then spend that money that they pay us with them, right? Because they are the ones controlling the markets. So we exist as a labor class, and largely as a cheap labor class. And also, we are the market in terms of consuming all of their products. Great deal, eh? Great deal. I mean, no, and I'm being sarcastic, by the way, just so you don't think I actually believe that this is a great deal. It's absolutely ridiculous. And anyone who's buying this, any African person who's buying this, you're not you don't take yourself serious. Anyway, let's listen.
include here that this is trade that's based on the principle.
And by the way, the part that really got me was when she said, "Oh, our European partners have shown such goodwill from Europe towards Africa." The people who, in the document I read for you in the previous episode, these people say their primary interest is their access to our resources. It's not about our well-being or anything like that. is that the goodwill she's referring to? Or maybe she's referring to, the colonialism, you know, in the previous year. Maybe that's the goodwill, or maybe apartheid is the goodwill. I don't know. Maybe the poverty we have now is the goodwill. Like, what is this goodwill? Hmm? Like the DA must take our people serious.
Of beneficiation. So foreign direct investment into companies where they've got headquarters and manufacturing outlets here in South Africa. This is not an extractive relationship as we see with a number of other countries in the global south. Secondly, we know that we've put a huge amount of effort, both as the Democratic Alliance and as the Government of National Unity, into stabilizing our relationship with the United States of America. For the simple reason that the African Growth and Opportunity Act has a fundamental preface being that if a nation state that is party to this beneficiation treaty or agreement, essentially, it's not a trade agreement.
That, quote unquote, the BRICS formation is a beacon of hope, and particularly its expansion, which now includes countries like Iran.